Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So really quickly here, to help you understand what's going on and what is happening in the end again, I think I couldn't describe it enough because of the exact nature of the situation. So basically there's a bunch of people who are like military people, government politicians, corporate heads, okay, rich, kind of eccentric people, odd, rich, gay people, and occultists who are like wizards or witches or magicians or warlocks, in their minds at least, and they play dress-up games, and they think that they should tell the top martial arts ever possible, using a universal scale, using logic, fair and square top martial arts, no tech, cheating, no generational ill-gotten gains, no controlled breeding, unfair advantages, right? But actual, universal, best of all time. The future's ruined because of artificial intelligence and all the cheating and all the righteous being screened out, just invalid worms being allowed to continue to quote-unquote evolve, if you want to call it that, into abominations. Straightforward. You might not like the way I just said what I just said, but you all know it's true. They went around massacring people. Of all the people they massacred, Nigerians were the bell that rings the loudest, right? In most cases, I'm not racist, but let me just help you understand this. Most Nigerian warriors could grab a shorter person by the neck of any race, including black races, and while their arms and legs flail in vain, while they cut them in vain, and then stab them with a spear, real tough, done, kind of thing. That's how much there was a physical advantage, historically. That goes in, and also they are more athletic, physically gifted, better at striking than big white people and big people of any race, Mongolian, any race you can think of. Okay. Now, the top martial artist can't just be a big brute who moves slow. He's got to be fast. And he's got to strike effectively enough to take on someone big and strong like that. So it's obvious that it's me. So with a universal scale, we consider how people were, how they've evolved. It's clear cut that I'm the top martial artist ever possible. It doesn't take the top martial artist ever possible to see that. It doesn't take being a brain surgeon's son to understand that. The son of two doctors, open and shut. So you got these worms, and I call them worms because they deserve to be called worms. They think they should be able to stick up their nose and tell me what to do like some slave master or something in a country where we find slavery, especially this transatlantic slave trade, the most repugnant in popular culture, okay, in the most liberal state in that country, California. You see what I'm saying? Not racist, part white, not racist. You can imagine that would piss you off. You can imagine when they're threatening to kill you and they're financially sabotaging you, they're sexually harassing you, using fumes and poisons and technologies, that you would be mad. Okay? Now the churches, the mosques, the synagogues, the various philosophies and groups, they're part of the process. There are thousands and thousands of people gang stalking me over, the last, my whole life really, but the last about, since 2011, that's 14 years especially. Thousands of people from every philosophy, every race you can imagine. Well, that's the situation. Do you think that some arrogant rich person who, is part and parcel with mass child molestation, human trafficking, murder, rape, sexual harassment, exploitation, you name it, drugging, poisoning, substances in the air, materials in the food, do you think they should be able to stick up their nose at the most righteous person that ever lived and he should just take it in the name of keeping the peace with oppressors who should be cooked alive if you're feeling merciful? Think about it. Put it into perspective. They are way wrong, and I am perfectly right. Thank you. And on top of that, they just ordered people to mess up what is very likely to be one of my last videos ever. A 10-minute clip in it where they added background noise, which is likely to be annoying to people. And whether or not people see my videos in the future, it's in my head. And in reality, they have interfered with this Christ process. That's how far gone America is from reality. Your government that you all obey, completely terrified of them and not God, interferes with the most righteous person that ever lived in his work. You understand how fucking sick that is? They're better off raping kids every day for the rest of their fucking life than moving a finger against me. But they're far too evil. They're far too poorly bred to understand that. If every country in the world is putting pressure on him, say, so what? He's the Son of God, and what better reason for a country to perish? Countries come and go. America's going to perish for some bitch shit instead of standing with Christ? It's pathetic. Well, so you got to bear in mind that what they're doing is wrong. So if they're trying to be sincere or something, and they're doing something like that at times, It's in the boundaries of insincerity, neocolonialism, and racial supremacy. When it comes to the most common and most dominant, in a secular way, dominant forms of Christianity in popular culture, Christian Zionism is probably number one. And all the other forms we see are like on the spectrum of that. They all try to uphold white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy. If you look at white supremacy, and I've done this many times, one definition you get, which is very on point, is when white culture, is seen as more important than other cultures. And there's no justification for that. There's a thin line between white culture and, say, Eskimo culture or Arab culture. There's nothing about it that says it's universally superior. My culture and religion, for example, and philosophy, is universal, pinpoint, and moral precision. We all come from Africa, so it has an African component. African patriarchal component, because that's the natural order. I'm not from some race where I just said, hey guys, why not my race, right? It is logical. It's universally logical. What white people tend to do is they tend to try to make it seem like what it means to be a human is to be quote unquote white. That's not logical. We'd all come from Europe. And someone would complain like a little girl and say, you say that all the time. I don't say it enough, that's for sure. And people can't hear it enough, that's for sure. If you're too sensitive to that, go with like 1% of people are so racist and sensitive that they can't hear the truth, and go hide under a blanket with them and start crying about how the truth scares you. So the churches tend to say things in a way that is fake, has to do with false prophecies, has to do with the misconceptions that come with the swindlers who peddle Christianity instead of the truth that is hidden in Christianity. The narrow road. Why? Because people aren't wise enough to find it, and it's obscure to some degree. The knowledge of the kingdom of heaven has been hidden to rebels. Only those people with a good heart naturally tend to find it. That's the argument that's being made. So that part's key there when you try to understand what they're doing. So some of these guys are atheists. I mean, when you look at Western culture, right, Judeo-Western culture, it's white, Jewish, and LGBT, and then token minority. And everything's like a response to the church. In many ways, the church is like the center of the culture. Think about all those towns historically with the churches and the church bell, and that's where they would meet. That's where they would discuss things. That's what they took the most seriously. Basically, they took putting on a show more seriously than anything else. And atheism is a movement that Christians allowed to rise in America. Judaism was tolerated as well because the church upholds white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy. So they want the white man to do his thing a little bit and to explore a little bit, but they don't want people to do things in a way that is fair and just and right because they're evil. Think about it. Whether it's the whole race or not, that's not what this video is about, but people who group together and do that. And keep in mind, I consider my white mother blameless because she brought me into this world. People who group together and do that are evil. In order to try to be good to the best of your ability, you have to call evil evil, to be honest, to be good, to be sincere, to be disciplined, to be decent. You can't say, well, there's a lot of people doing that and they might take offense. No, you have to call it for what it is. Satanism, atheism, agnosticism, New Age philosophies, there's something that quote-unquote Christians were really insincere people. The masses of Christians are very bad people. Same with Muslims and Jews. When you look at what is actually good, lying about God on purpose for pride, to control the market, to control sexual, that's pure evil. If in the midst of that you hold a door open for an old lady, so what? If in the midst of that you say, I know how you feel about the Bible, so what? You are trafficking people, you evil fuck. What don't people get? Same with Judaism. The burden of proof is on the masses of people who are Orthodox Jews, who claim to be Jews, to prove that they're good. When you claim that you have the truth about God, prove it with logic. Because you're controlling money and pussy to a large fucking degree. And that, if without universal pinpoint and moral precision, that's evil. Doesn't matter what you call yourself, no matter what race you are. You can be blacker than me, I'd say the same way. You think because somebody is blacker than me that I'd let him walk all over me? You've got to be kidding yourself. Okay, so remember that there's a bunch of worms that are trying to tell me what to do. And they don't have their priorities straight. Gays who don't care about how it affects the community, how it affects the planet and their families. Racist whites, racist Jews. Some people in the churches who play a disassociation game. That's why that picture's on the screen, right? You know, who's this guy? Pope Leo is like Mickey Mouse or something. Okay? He disassociates from reality and does magic tricks. Where in Fantasia, Mickey Mouse is actually, in the cartoon that is, doing magic. But Pope Leo does magic tricks. And either way, it's immature. Okay, is the Spirit of God about doing magic in a cartoon? No. Is it about doing magic tricks and disassociating with a gay look on your face, a gay nerd look? You think God's chosen representative would be a nerd? Is his argument that he used to be a tough, real righteous, holy man and they changed the way he looked? No. Think God would rather have you put on a show or stand firm for what's right? Why bitch-ass motherfuckers add pink to your picture, maybe red to your lips, what have you? Obviously, God wants people to man up and obey God through me and face adversity. That's what you see in my videos. All the childish stuff they did. He's in the spirit of being a childish, carefree nerd who knows that Christ is back and refuses to acknowledge him. His church that he's supposed to oversee, he's responsible for. Their members know that I'm back. If you were a serious church and you knew Christ was back, would you go out like a punk? Or would you say, hey, Christ is back, and be ready to die on the drop of a hat? Think about it. People who are Catholics, are in the military, police, gangs, you name it. They're willing to die for those despicable ideas. But they're not willing to die for Christ. Should I respect that? No. Should I respect Protestants? No. No matter how you slice it, I'm right and they're wrong. Only a dumbass thinks that this shouldn't be said. Now keep in mind, you know, that the Catholic Church, Christianity in general, the churches in general, the English royal family, what have you, are the most criticized groups on the planet, basically. Who's criticized more than the Pope? Who's criticized more than the President? When in America, people start organizing psyops and turning it up on me for criticizing these groups, that's very sick. Very sick. All over the world, people criticize homosexuals. So you think that people shouldn't be allowed to criticize these groups? You're on the side of the debate that you think people shouldn't be allowed to criticize Israel? Think about it. What the hell? Why not? Are you going to then extend that to no one's allowed to criticize anyone at all? Only if they're privileged? It's very sad that people don't get these things. Not only is it right to criticize people if that's actually what you believe and you think it's fair from the bottom of your heart, okay, but I'm right universally speaking. I'm right in truth. You people have no right to criticize me when you know it's wrong to criticize me. Because that's not the same thing. For example, if you saw someone minding their own business, so to speak, and they're doing the right thing and they're helping somebody out, would you say, hey, what the fuck are you doing? That's why the key word there is right. Would that be the right thing to do? No. So that person has no right on a level that goes beyond the law. The law is pathetic. It used to be illegal to have slaves. Fuck the law. Fuck American law. Fuck those bitches. But when it's actually right on a divine and universal level, that's when you're right to criticize somebody. If you believe it's right. When you add the element of I'm right, I believe it's right, and I said if you have a viable counter-argument presented and they're suppressing me and harassing me instead, yes, I'm right, and yes, you people are wrong. Think about your spirit that you're in right now. It's bitch. It's the spirit of being wrong and trying to exert authority over the top martial artist ever possible, who's the most right person ever possible. Your spirit is fucking bitch. And it's being trampled by God and mine, and I'm in God's spirit. Trampling your fucking spirit because your spirit is bitch-made. White supremacy pussy, Jewish supremacy garbage, LGBT supremacy being trampled as it deserves to be, as it should be. And they have no viable counterargument, which includes to the component of the argument where if you don't stand for what's right, you're not really a man. And if you're female, you don't stand for what's right, you're not really a woman. So on some bitch ass, not really a man, not really a woman type of bitch shit, in the spirit of being in that kind of bitch, getting trampled like a bitch. Thank God I'm not in their fucking spirit.